Card King, here I come. Hello, sports fans, sports collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com. Your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On a telephone line, I welcome to the program a Connecticut baseball superstar who played for the St. Louis Cardinals from 1984 to 1986. I welcome in pitcher Kurt Kepshire. Kurt, great to have you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Kurt, let's begin 1979, a big year for you, a big year, signing with the Reds after being selected in the 25th round of the 79 amateur draft. Take us back to your reaction, your feeling at the time, your college student athlete, having the big red machine choosing you.
I broke my fingers in high school, my senior year, out of an accident. And so I thought I would get drafted right out of high school, to be honest with you. And then, from what I've heard, some of the scouts there were kind of leery and, they didn't want to really take a chance. So I went to the University of New Haven in Connecticut, and great baseball team, good school, University of New Haven. And I pitched 2 games in the fall of that year, and the scouts were, still looking at me. And I threw the ball well. Everything was great. And they called my late coach, Frank Vieira, from the University of New Haven, called me in the office and said, Kurt, the Cincinnati Reds want to draft you in this June coming. But I need to know because of the eligibility. I had to wait an extra year, I think, for my eligibility. But I had said that, no, I elected to give up my schooling to go get drafted by the Reds, which I did in that June. And I worked out, when I had dropped out of school, college, I worked out with them privately in Connecticut and under their supervision. And I got drafted in that June, in that round. And then went to Billings, Montana, for rookie ball, and threw the ball well, and that was it. Everything else was history.
Now, Kurt, if you go back in time, now were other teams looking at you besides the Reds?
Yeah, Baltimore Orioles were looking at me in high school, and a few other teams. And then I was in school one day, and the principal had called me in the office and said, Kurt, are you pitching today? And I said, yes. And he goes, well, there's a scout, the bureau from New York City, all their scouts come. I guess the main guys come, and they came that day when I pitched, and just to evaluate me because they've been hearing things about me. So I guess in high school, so everything led to that, and to the draft. I got drafted by the Reds, and I was so excited, and being 18, 19 years old, I was happy. My mom and dad were excited, so it was a good day, or a good year for me that time. Yeah.
And since we're on the topic of high school, I read somewhere that you pitched, you won 2 games with a pair of broken fingers. Is that a fact?
That's what happened. Yeah, my senior year, I was in wood shop. I was just minding my own business, and a student accidentally hit my hands with a sledgehammer, broke them. They rushed me to the hospital. I had a pitch in the state tournament that following week. And they said, there's no way you're going to pitch. And I said, well, I'm going to try. And I wound up pitching and threw the ball well. I mean, it was pain, but it was just my nature and the way I was bred. Maybe I shouldn't have done it, but I wanted to do it. And I got it done, and I threw well. And we won the state championship that year, first time ever in our high school. So I was proud of that.
Unbelievable, with 2 broken fingers, and this was your pitching hand.
In my pitching hand, yeah. And,
my gosh!
Even the doctor said, said there's no way you could pitch, Kurt, and they did the X-rays, and my mother looked at me, and I just looked at her. I said, well, I'm going to do it, and she goes, all right, and that's what happened. So, but it was. I think my mother gave me 2 aspirins before I pitched, and that was that. But yeah, it was. I didn't think, I was determined. Put it that way. My mind at that time was, if you said to me it can't be done, no matter what it is, when I was a young man, I would say no. You just gave me a challenge, so I'm gonna I'm gonna challenge that. But yeah, that's always been with me. If you say to me, "Oh, it can't be done. You can't do that, Kurt," I'm gonna try it, and I'm gonna be determined to do it. So yeah.
Now, Now with the Reds, from what I understand, the Reds used you primarily as a relief pitcher. Now you were with the organization for 4 seasons, right?
Correct. Yep.
Now during your time with the, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, during your time with the Reds, did you ever get a chance to commingle with some of those great Red players like Johnny Bench, Seaver, etc.?
Yes, I, being a young kid, 19, rookie ball in Montana, and then that year after the season in Montana, my manager had asked me, would you like to go to winter ball, Kurt? We're going to invite you to winter ball, which was kind of an honor in the meaning that they liked you, a lot. You had some potential. So I said, sure. So I went to instructional league, they call it, and I threw the ball well there, and that's when I really got to meet some of the older players like, Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, Griffey was there, the father, and Kepshire, and because they were doing some workouts themselves, and I was in awe with them because they were, I remember the Big Red Machine, and I was so proud to be drafted by the Reds, and even today, my heart's always with the Reds. They gave me an opportunity, and pitched 4 years with them. I threw hard. I was a two-pitch pitcher back then, coming in from the 7th inning on. So I threw the ball well, and my 4th year with the Reds in the minor leagues, they didn't put me on. They have a rule where they have to have a 40-man roster, which for some reason to this day I still don't know why they didn't put me on the 40-man roster. Well, they didn't. And when I was in Indianapolis with the Reds at AAA, Joe Frazier, the Louisville Cardinals St. Louis manager at AAA at that time, I came in and punched out the side when we were going for the championship. I came in relief in the 9th inning, and I punched out the side, and I think I threw twice to that team. And I only pitched like 10 innings or 11 innings because I got called up at the end. And I threw well against them, and I guess he recommended me to their scouts, and they were in the stands that day. And that winter, I went home. The season was over. We won the championship. I went home and I was working out late at night because I do my running at night, and there's this during the winter meetings, and I was coming home, walking home after I got done running, and I see the lights on in the kitchen. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I said, what's going on? So I walked in the house, and my mother and father in the kitchen, and they have a smile on their face, and I said, well, what's the matter? And they said that Woody Woodward called, our player development guy from Cincinnati, said he's going to call you in about 10 minutes to be here. I said, okay. And he called me up and said, Kurt, I want to congratulate you. And I said, what's up, Woody? And he goes, well, you just got drafted or signed by the St. Louis Cardinals. You're going to go to big league camp this year with them. We didn't put you on the 40-man roster. And I never asked him why. I just assumed I would be on that, after growing good for that whole, organization throughout my 4 years with them. And for some reason they didn't, and St. Louis gave me an opportunity, and I went, and the rule was they paid $50,000 to the Reds for that draft. It's a Rule 5 draft, I think it's called. And so I went to St. Louis that spring of '82, and I threw well in spring training with the big team, and I got cut the last day. So the rule was if you don't make the big league team, Cincinnati has the right to buy you back for half the price, which was $25,000. Well, I think I should have made the team, to be honest with you, but that's whatever. But I got cut the last day. They sent me down to the minors. Now the Reds want me back. So Whitey Herzog said, well, wait a minute. So they made a trade to minor leaguers for me, to stay with St. Louis, and that's what happened at that time. But my heart was always with the Reds. I still follow the Reds, and I don't really follow baseball that much. I mean, I watch some games here and there, but I always root for the Reds for some reason. I've had a lot of friends. We came up through the trenches, in rookie ball, A ball, double A, triple A, ups and downs, and bus rides. So I had some really, really fond friends that I've, along the way with the Reds.
So Kurt, so they wanted you back. So the Reds wanted you back, but Herzog said no.
Herzog said no and made a minor league deal, which a player named Kelly Parrish. I think he's from that area where your station's at, or where you're doing your show. In California. He was a shortstop with the Louisville Redbirds, the Cardinals AAA team. A good player, shortstop, but he wasn't going anywhere because of Ozzie Smith. So you got to see the writing on the wall. In his case, so we needed a shortstop in AAA. So they traded him and a younger kid in A ball for me to stay with St. Louis. And they sent Kelly Parrish to Cincinnati, the AAA team. Yeah.
Wow.
And he wasn't too happy. We know each other. We know each other. We played against each other. I was with the Indianapolis Reds, and he was with the Louisville Redbirds.
So you arrived to Louisville. I believe Jim Fregosi, right? Wasn't he your manager?
Yeah. So I'm pitching in Double A, and I still don't even know why I was in Double A. I should have been in Triple A, but I never asked questions, and so I was throwing the ball well in Woodbury, Connecticut, my hometown, in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I got to see my friends came out, family got to see me pitch in Double A, and I was their short man and closer, and I was throwing the ball well, really well. And so the last couple of weeks, they called up a guy named Ben Hayes from Indianapolis. So now they need a pitcher, closer. He was their closer, so they called me up to to Louisville, and I take that back. I was in Double A with St. Louis, but when I got called up to Louisville, I'm a Cardinal now that year, and Jim Fragosi's our manager there, and he said, Kurt, the day I got in, he goes, when was the last time you started? I go, oh, Jimmy, it had to be since high school. He goes, well, you're going to start tonight. I said, all right, give me what you got. I said, okay. And I wound up pitching 8 1/3, struck out like 12, threw the ball well. We won the game 4-1 or something like that. And the end of the game, he called me in his office and said, sit down. So I sat down. He goes, you're my starter now. And I said, thanks for the opportunity, Jimmy. And I said, okay, whatever you guys want, And that was it. Jim Fregosi really made me the starter. But I think I always wanted to be a starter. I was always a starter. But when I got drafted by the Reds, they made me a short man. And for whatever reasons, that was fun. I just wanted an opportunity to play ball, pitch. But Jim Fregosi, I owe a lot to him. He gave me that starting role and got me to the big leagues with St. Louis in 84.
And we're talking with Kurt Kepshire of the 1985 St. Louis Cardinals. He's with us on the telephone line. Kurt, was that when Todd Worrell sprained his back?
Yes, he was on that day or the day before. He was at a fort somewhere in Kentucky. Army stuff. They were looking at machineries and stuff and tanks and stuff. And I guess he jumped on a tank to check it out. And then when he started getting off, he twisted his back, and that's when they called me up that night. And then I flew in the next day, and he was on a DL for a while because of a bad back. But he was a starter at the time. And what's so funny about that is that so I took his spot, and he never seen a starting role again. And he had a good arm also, taller, big guy, and threw the ball hard, and later on became our closer for the Cardinals in the big leagues.
He was a tremendous pitcher, Worrell.
Yeah, he threw. Yeah, he was. Yeah, but for that reason, he was a young guy too. I think I was a little older than him, but he, when he hurt his back, it's just funny how things happen. I believe in fate and stuff and reasons, but he, from what I understand, when he was a starter, he threw hard, but he had some control problems. but always had a great arm. And so Jim Fregosi made him their closer in AAA. And then when I got to the big leagues with St. Louis, Bruce Sutter was our closer. And then he had some contract dispute and went on to the Atlanta Braves. That's where Todd Worrell came up, and he was our closer, you know. And the rest was history, you know.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
He did a wonderful job for them, for the Cardinals, for us, you know.
Yep. And I want to get a few more in. I have like 7 minutes or 8 minutes left.
Sure.
In a few weeks marks your 41 year anniversary of your first major league win, which came July 4th, 1984 against the Giants. Take us back, if you can, your first experience on the mound, that major league baseball debut.
It was funny, you know. I was in Louisville, and I got called in the office, and Jimmy Fregosi said, "Sit down. They're calling you up. You're going to meet them in San Francisco." And I said, "You're pitching the second game of a doubleheader on that Sunday, which was, I think, July 4th." So I got there Friday. So I checked in the hotel. I couldn't sleep for a couple of nights. Excited, you know, getting this opportunity, you know, most kids dream about. And here I am getting this opportunity. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I was just so excited, you know. And I wound up pitching that day, and I threw the ball well, 8 1/3 innings. I think I won 4-1 and threw the ball very well. And it was such a relief. I must have slept that night. The best I've ever slept in my life, and I had a great meal. But it was so exciting for my parents and my family back home, and you know, matter of fact, I'm getting a little teary-eyed talking about it because it was an emotional thing for me. All the work and the hard work my parents put up with, you know, being a little leaguer and high school and stuff, and so it all paid off. And that game I will always cherish that debut or my first start in the major leagues against the San Francisco Giants. Great. Great feeling.
A great feeling. And then 1984 also, I believe, was your first Major League Baseball shutout against the Cubs, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. It was, I pitched against Rick Sutcliffe. That's the year they won the championship. So we're in St. Louis. We're playing the Cubs. And I'll tell you a funny story real quick. So Whitey Herzog gives me the 2 balls to warm up. He says, and Bruce Sutter's locker was right next to mine. So, and I was quiet. It was my rookie season. I just did my job, kept my mouth shut. So Whitey, here you go, Kep. And he goes, pitch a shutout, I'll buy you any kind of car you want. I said, okay. And I didn't think about it. Well, I pitched the shutout. So the end of the game, shook my hand, great job, whatever. Bruce goes, go in there and get your car. I go, what are you talking about? He said, remember he said he'll buy you a car, brand new car, if you pitch a shutout? Well, you pitched a shutout. I go, I'm not going in there to ask him for my car. And then it was funny. He started laughing, and that went by. And then my next start was 5 days later. I pitched a shutout against the Montreal Expos, which ended the career. Not the career, the season. Ended the season on a back-to-back shutouts. So now Ozzie Smith comes up to me and says, man, you got a nice watch. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, oh, you got Player of the Week. I go, you're going to get Player of the Week. Back-to-back shutouts and 19 strikeouts, whatever, and back-to-back. And he said, and I didn't get it. They wound up giving it to Dwight Gooden because he pitched the game and hit a home run.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so imagine that. So they gave him the Player of the Week, which, from what I understand, New York is where I guess the writers vote on that. I don't know. And that's the capital of the media. So again, I didn't get anything for it, but I didn't get a car and I didn't get my watch. So, but man. I was fine with it anyways. I really was. But that was it was exciting. It was I must say like I said, my love has always been with the Reds, and I have a great gratitude towards St. Louis for giving me an opportunity to play. So.
And again, the Mets get in the way. And your heart is with the Reds, but you must not be a Met fan, right, Kurt?
No, I don't. I don't like the Mets, and particularly one player. I think I've mentioned that, and I'll say his name is Darryl Strawberry. It was in spring training of '84, And so I was working on some stuff. And when we go to spring training, the hitters work on certain things, and pitchers work on certain things. Everybody's working on certain things, because you don't want to pitch like you're going to pitch against them during the season. So I had a 2-2 count on Strawberry, and the people don't know, we shared that in St. Petersburg, Florida. We shared that stadium with the Mets and the Cardinals. So it was in the morning, around 10:30 in the morning. We're playing the spring training game, and it's 2-2, and I threw a nasty slider, struck him out, froze him. So he struck out, and he started yelling at me as he's walking to the dugout. Now, mind you, I'm a rookie still, This is my first year, with the team. And I said, "What did he say?" And I said, "Go sit down, go sit down." And he was just chirping, swearing, I can't say on air. And I said, "What's up with this guy?" So Keith Hernandez come out and said, "Kurt, take it easy, whatever." I said, "All right." So then Whitey came out. "Don't worry about him." I said, and I pretended to keep pitching. And the stories that I found out later, I hope he got his stuff together. He had some issues, but I do have respect for him. I'm not going to badmouth any ball player, but I was just shocked that he would, act like that, But whatever. But I wish him well.
Wow. So you and Strawberry, you never got along. Anyone else that rubbed you the wrong way?
Him and Wally Backman. Just them two players are the Mets. And again,
now what did Wally do?
I had a perfect game against them going into the 5th inning, my rookie season, playing in Shea Stadium. My parents are there watching me for the first time because I lived in Connecticut. So they drove down and, they're behind home plate. And so what happened was a blue pit came. So I had a perfect game going into the 5th. A blue pit, almost a drop foul ball, which should have been caught, but whatever. And it opened the gates a little bit, so I gave up a couple runs. And so Strawberry comes up. So he hits the ball to left field, and Lonnie Smith's out there, and he goes back to the wall. It's like a big pop-up. So I thought he caught the ball, and it just went over the fence. So I said, "Oh, God." So I came out, and so the next morning, I'm reading the papers, which I normally don't. But Wally Backman made some issues. Oh, he was all right. They were asking him about me because being a rookie. Yeah, it wasn't bad things that he said, but he was just a wise guy, a tough kid. He was a good player, but just disrespecting me in a way in the papers. So I said something back to the reporter, and he put that in the papers. And I said, "Who does he think he is? He hits 220, whatever, and he's a superstar," or something to that effect. And it was just funny. So we were going back and forth, and then later down the road, a couple years later, we saw each other, and we kind of laughed and chuckled about it. But it's just part of the game, I have my pride. I'm sure they have theirs, and we all have our little egos. So, but it was all in fun. But yeah, they had a good team. I'm not going to say they didn't, but they had a pretty good team, and I still wonder why we got rid of Keith Hernandez. To that day, I still don't understand why. Well, I do understand why they got rid of him, but why he didn't like Keith Hernandez for some reason. He was, I think, lazy. From what I know, he called him lazy, but he was a good player, and I don't know. I think our team could have in '86, '85, with Keith there, and what we got from the Mets, we got Neil Allen and Rick Ownby for Keith Hernandez, and I don't know. You guys could see who got the better deal of that. But yeah, I could never understand that move, but whatever.
Man, now the '85 World Series against the Royals. Now, you were on that roster?
I was on the roster, but I didn't pitch. Yeah, I didn't pitch because they went on the 3-man, and I had a bad September. And that's where I think being a reliever all my life caught up to me as a starter because I would pitch a great game. Next start would be a bad game. I was tired. I told my pitching coach I just got a dead arm, which we all get. We get these dead arms, as we pitchers call it. and I was just trying to fight through it. But so they pitched Bob Forsch in my start, the late Bob Forsch, which great guy, and God rest his soul, and so he took my start, but we were up 3-1, and we wound up losing a World Series. To this day, I don't understand that either. But baseball's funny, So yeah, we lost. We were 3-1 on them, and a bad call by Deckinger at first base with Todd Worrell. Matter of fact, speaking about Todd Worrell, he was in the game, and I have the picture on my wall where he's on the base and he's out by a foot, and they called him safe, and that would have ended the game, and they wound up winning that game. So not a bad call, but we should have. Nonetheless, we should have won the game anyways, but we wound up losing 4 straight games, or 3 straight games, and they wound up winning the World Series.
And they're telling me, Kurt, I have about 30 seconds left. I mean, this was fun. I got to get you back if you're interested in coming back.
No problem. No, you got my number. You have everything you need, and I'm glad to do it.
This is great.
Problem.
And a quickie, Whitey Herzog. Did you get along with Whitey?
I think he said 10 words to me the whole time. I think to this day. He didn't have time for younger players, I don't think. He's always said great things about me in the papers, but he never really talked to me about things. How you feeling, Kurt, with this? Or, just him doing a stroll out in the outfield. He would talk to other players, older players, but he never came up to me, and we never really discussed baseball or talking baseball or game situations, nothing. And but he always said great things about me in the paper, and then I got in a few words with the general manager, Del Maxwell, and that's another story. But
that's another story.
So but
let's do a part 2. Let's do a part 2. We'll get into that.
Sounds great. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give you a ring. I'll give you a ring.
Yeah, definitely. You got my number, and thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate it. And to all your listeners, have a great day. And all right, that's it.
Thanks, Kurt. Kurt Kepshire, St. Louis Cardinals. Thank you so much. We'll speak soon.
Thanks, Brian. You got it.
Bye-bye. Happy collecting to all.